Picture this, a rainy night, a small town house glowing warm until a scream shatters it all. Liam, 22, stands frozen as his dad slams a fist on the table. "You're no son of mine." His mom sobs, begging him to change. But in minutes, his bags are tossed into the mud, and the door locks behind him, all because he's gay. This isn't just a story, it's a raw wound of rejection. A son's love crushed by the people he'd die for, and it's only the beginning. Liam grew up in that house, a quiet kid with grease-stained hands from fixing cars, the kind of son who'd mow the lawn without asking, who'd sit through his dad's lectures about hard work and faith. His parents were old school, a factory worker with a temper, mom a homemaker who prayed every meal. Liam was their pride, the one they bragged about at church, until that night changed everything. He'd been texting his boyfriend Jake, a mechanic he'd met at the garage simple stuff. "Miss you, see you tomorrow." But his mom borrowed his phone to call a friend, saw the messages, and dropped it like it burned. She ran to Dad, voice shaking. He's with a man." The kitchen turned into a war zone. Dad roared, "What the hell is this? You're disgusting." Liam tried to explain, "It's just who I am. I still love you." But his words drowned in their fury. Mom clutched her cross. "We can fix this, Liam. Just try, please." He shook his head, tears welling. "I'm not broken." That set Dad off. He grabbed Liam's arm, dragged him to his room. "Pack your crap and get out." Liam begged, voice cracking. "Don't do this. I'll do anything. Just let me stay." He fell to his knees, rain soaking through the open window, but Dad yanked him up. "You're no son of ours anymore." "Oi," Mom stood by, sobbing. "We can't have this shame," and turned away as Dad shoved Liam's duffel into the yard. The rain pounded. Liam stumbled out, grabbing his bag, mud splattering his jeans. He banged on the door. "Please, I've got nowhere to go." But the lights flicked off, the lock clicked, and silence fell. He stood there, drenched, staring at the house he'd fixed up, every tire he'd changed, every dime he'd given them, now a tomb of rejection. At 22, he was homeless, disowned. His family's love swapped for disgust, all for loving who he did. That night could have ended him, kicked out, soaked, broken, but Liam's story doesn't stop in the rain. It's about what he did next, a twist of heart and grit that'll hit you hard. If this stings your soul, smash that like button. I need to know you feel it. Share it with someone who's been cut deep by family. It might mean more than you think. And if you're new, subscribe to Hard Stories, hit the bell. We're digging into Liam's fight next, and it's a ride you won't forget. Liam stumbled away from that rain-soaked night with his duffel bag heavy on his shoulder, his father's final words slicing through the storm as he shouted, "You are no son of mine," with a venom that left Liam reeling. He hitched a ride out of that small town, its familiar streets fading into the dark, and landed in a city where buildings loomed like giants. The noise roared loud enough to drown his thoughts. At 22, he found a corner in a rundown apartment where walls sagged with damp rot. The faucet dripped a relentless tune against a rusted sink that mocked his sleepless nights. He took a job at a garage down the block where air hung thick with oil, gasoline. His hands grew rough from twisting wrenches on engines that groaned under his touch. He worked until his fingers stiffened. His shoulders burned, saving every dime he could scrape together. But loneliness carved a hole in him, deeper than hunger that twisted his gut after days of skipped meals. He would slump on a lumpy mattress in dim light, staring at a creased photo of his parents from a time when life felt whole. Mom beaming over a picnic table laden with sandwiches. Dad grinning as he flipped burgers on a smoky grill in their backyard. Those memories haunted him, tugging at his chest, yet he could not bring himself to pick up the phone, send a letter. The silence from home rose like a fortress he lacked courage to breach. Then one gray afternoon, a piece of news drifted to him through an old neighbor who had moved to the city, dropped by the garage with a tired voice full of pity. His parents were crumbling under a burden they could not bear. Dad had lost his factory job when his back gave out after decades of hauling steel, leaving him hunched in a frayed recliner with a scowl etched into his face, a bottle clutched in his trembling hand. Mom had started cleaning offices at night, dragging herself through shifts that left her knees swollen, her palms raw from scrubbing with cheap bleach that stung her skin. The mortgage payments piled high like a stack of unpaid debts. The bank sent letters that turned from polite warnings to stark threats. Foreclosure hung over their house like a death sentence, ready to claim the only home Liam had ever known. He heard this while tightening a lug nut, grease smearing his knuckles. The neighbor's words sank in slow, saying they are too stubborn to ask anyone for help. Still spit your name like a curse whenever it comes up. His blood boiled. He thought they do not deserve a single thing after throwing me out like trash. But then a wave of guilt washed over him. That house held every Christmas morning. Every scraped knee his mother had bandaged. He stood outside a payphone that night, coins cold in his pocket, dialed home, his voice quaking as he said, "Mom, Dad, I know you are in trouble. I can send you money to get through this mess." His father answered with a snarl that cut through the crackling line, saying, "We do not need your rotten cash, you disgrace to this family," slammed the phone down, leaving Liam gripping the receiver, tears blurring his vision, a hollow ache spreading through his ribs. That rejection seared him, but then fate landed a crueler blow. He started coughing. A dry, persistent hack clung to his chest like a shadow he could not shake. He dragged himself to a free clinic on a day off. A weary doctor peered at him through smudged glasses. "Said you have lung cancer, son. Early stage, but it is moving fast. Treatment will cost more than you can dream of making in years." Liam sat there, hands balled into fists, hearing words echo in his skull, saw his parents' house in his mind, that foreclosure notice pinned to its faded door. He made a choice right there in that sterile room, keeping sickness locked tight inside his chest. Walked back to the garage to take on extra shifts, working through black hours of night, sweat dripping down his spine, blood speckling his sleeve when he coughed too hard. He sent chunks of pay to the bank under a false name, marking each transfer as a gift from a friend, pouring every ounce of fading strength into their debt. His own breath grew ragged. His body began to buckle under strain. His parents sat in their dim kitchen back home, Mom folding yellowed bills, praying aloud, saying God will save us from this ruin. Dad growling, "It is not from that boy. He is a stain we scrubbed out of our lives long ago." They had no idea their son was wasting away for them. Each dollar he sent a shard of his breaking health, a silent plea they would never hear in time. Liam kept at it, alone, sick, a stubborn spark flickering in his wasting frame. Liam leaned over a rusted engine block in the dim flickering light of the garage. His coughs reverberated off the cold concrete walls, each one a jagged note in a song he could not stop. At 24, he was a faint shadow of the young man who used to tinker with his father's beat-up pickup truck in their driveway. His skin had turned pale like old paper. His frame shrunk thin from hunger and fatigue. His hands quivered from endless nights that stretched into gray mornings with no pause for rest. He had sworn a silent oath in that musty apartment. Clutching a crumpled foreclosure notice his neighbor had slipped under his door, vowing his parents would not lose the house they loved, even though they had thrown him out into the rain like a stranger. Cancer chewed at his lungs, a diagnosis he kept locked away in the dark corners of his mind. But rather than ease off, he doubled down, piling on double shifts at the garage, then triple shifts when the boss let him, working in a haze where the air clung thick with grease and despair. He hauled heavy tires until his arms trembled under their weight, scrubbed oil stains from the pitted floor until his knees throbbed with every move, repaired transmissions until his eyes watered from staring at rusted bolts too long, splitting every hard-earned paycheck between his cheap rent and their looming debt. He arranged payments through the bank, anonymous transfers marked as gifts from a concerned friend, each one a quiet rebellion against the rejection that still echoed in his ears from that stormy night. Every dollar he sent was a wound. His own medicine bottles gathered dust on a pharmacy shelf he passed daily. His cough grew deeper, wetter. Blood began to speckle his sleeve. Yet he pressed forward, counting down the payments in his head. 10 left, then 8, then 6. A lifeline he wove with hands that barely held steady. Back in his small hometown, his parents teetered on the brink of collapse. Dad's back kept him pinned to a sagging recliner where he sat day after day, his pride a brittle shield as he muttered, "We will figure something out," while Mom took on late shifts cleaning offices, her prayers sharpened with every bill that landed on their chipped kitchen table. One chilly morning, the bank called. A clerk's voice came through sharp and cold. saying your mortgage is paid off. Someone cleared every cent. They dropped the receiver in shock. Mom clasped her hands tight, whispering, "It is a miracle from above. God has finally answered our pleas." Dad nodded slow with a grunt, saying, "No way it is that boy. He is nothing but a disgrace we buried years ago." They sat together in that kitchen, the same one where Liam once ate oatmeal before school, oblivious to the son who was pouring his life into their rescue, each payment a fragment of his fading strength they would never acknowledge. Liam battled his body at every turn, his chest squeezed tight, his breaths came shallow and ragged, but he buried the pain with a stubborn resolve that kept him upright. One sticky, humid night, he stumbled in the garage. Tools clattered loud against the floor. He hit the ground hard, oil smeared across his cheek as he gasped for air that would not come easy. Ray, his co-worker, a Stockies man with a gravelly voice, rushed over shouting, "Liam, what is wrong with you? You look like death warmed over out here." Liam wiped a streak of blood from his lip, croaking, "I am just worn out. Gotta finish this job." But Ray grabbed his arm firm, saying, "You are coughing up blood, kid. You are going to a doctor right now. No excuses this time." Ray dragged him to a clinic down the street. The doctor peered at his x-rays with a grim frown, shook his head slow, saying, "It has spread fast. You need treatment today, or you will not last 6 months, maybe less, if you keep pushing like this." Liam stared at the scans, lungs a tangled mess of shadows, asked how long without it. The doctor sighed heavy. 3 months at best, maybe 2 if you are lucky. He walked out with no prescription in his pocket, only a weight pressing down on his chest. And that night, he sat on his sagging mattress, pulled out a torn page from a notebook to write a letter. His hands shook as he scratched out the words, "Mom, Dad, it is me. I paid off your house. Did not want you to lose it. Even after all you said to me, I am sick. Real sick, will not be around much longer. Just wanted you to have a roof over your heads." He folded it neat, handed it to Ray, saying, "Keep this safe. Give it to them if I do not pull through." Ray teared up, asking, "Why do this, Liam? They do not care one bit about you." Liam coughed, smiled faint, saying, "They are still my family. I do not need them to know yet." He went back to work, each shift a brutal fight, lifting hoods with arms that shook like leaves, wiping blood on rags he stuffed deep in his pocket, counting down the payments. 3 left, then 2, then 1, until the last transfer cleared the debt. He sat alone in the garage, staring at that worn photo of his parents. A whispered done slipped from his cracked lips, his lungs burned fierce. His time slipped away, but he had saved them without a single word. His parents celebrated back home. Mom baked a cake with shaky hands, saying, "Bless the stranger who did this for us." Dad grunted low, "It sure is not Liam. He is too selfish to give a damn." The irony hung thick in the air. Liam faded slow, his sacrifice unseen. Ray watched him waste away, muttering, "You are a fool, Liam." But Liam shrugged weak, saying fools love harder than most. Liam drew his final breath on the cold, hard floor of the garage. His body surrendered at last. Tools slipped from his limp fingers, clattered against the concrete as the air grew still around him. At 25, he was gone, his lungs torn apart by cancer. A life poured out in silence to save a home that had shut its doors on him years before. Ray knelt beside him, a hulking figure with calloused hands, whispering, "Oh no, no, Liam. You cannot leave like this. Come on, kid." His voice broke. Tears rolled down his weathered cheeks. He fumbled through Liam's jacket pocket, found a folded letter, stained with oil, smudged with a faint trace of blood. From a cough Liam could not hide. Ray gripped it tight, chest heaving. Knowing he had to finish what Liam started, he stood up slow, resolve hardening in his bones. A few days passed. He drove down the winding roads to that small town where Liam grew up. The house stood quiet in the morning light. Its chipped paint flaked off the siding. Its roof sagged, yet it endured, a monument to Liam's unseen battle. He knocked firm on the door. Liam's parents answered. Dad opened it with a scowl etched deep into his face. Mom peeked out behind him, eyes narrowed with suspicion. They grumbled, "What do you want here?" "We do not know you. Get off our step." Ray held out the letter, voice thick with grief, saying, "This is from your son Liam. He wanted you to have it. You need to read it right now." Dad snatched it quick, muttering, "He is no son of ours, never was after what he did." But Mom's hand shook as she took it from him, unfolded the page. Her breath caught sharp in her throat when she saw Liam's uneven scrawl across the worn paper. She read aloud, voice trembling, "Mom, Dad, it is me. I paid off your house. Did not want you to lose it. Even after all you said to me that night. I am sick. Real sick. Will not be around much longer. Just wanted you to have a place to stay safe." She choked on the words, stumbled to a halt. Dad grabbed the letter from her, eyes darted over it, his face drained pale as chalk. He muttered, "This cannot be real. No way in hell he did this for us." The truth slammed into them. 3 long years of payments, every dollar Liam clawed from his dying body, sent in secret while they sneered his name, believing it was Gate or some stranger who kept their home from the bank's grip. Mom sank to the floor, knees hit the wood with a thud. She sobbed loud. Why did we not know this? How could we let him suffer all alone? Dad staggered back, fist crashed into the wall, shouting, "He worked himself to death for us. Us who threw him out like garbage." The plaster cracked, his voice splintered into a raw howl. Ray stood firm, fists clenched at his sides, saying he never stopped loving you two. Even when you turned your backs cold, he hid the cancer, skipped every treatment, all to keep this roof over your heads. Mom clutched the letter to her chest, wailing, "We called him selfish, a disgrace to our name. Oh God, what have we done to our boy?" Dad's knees gave out. He crumpled beside her, whispering, "I drove him away with my hate. I killed my own son with my own damn words." They sat there, shattered. Liam's love pressed down on them, a gift they could not repay, a son they could not thank, their miracle unmasked as the child they disowned. Ray took them to the garage the next day. Liam's old workspace smelled of oil and rust. His toolbox sat in the corner, a faded photo of them taped to the lid. Mom ran her fingers over it, sobbing he kept us close, even after we pushed him away. Dad picked up a wrench, held it tight like a lifeline, muttering he fixed cars here. Fixed our house, fixed nothing for himself. Never once thought of his own pain. His voice faded. Tears splashed onto the steel. He clutched it until his knuckles whitened. The twist sank deep. Liam died alone. His final act a shield for parents who rejected him, they learned too late. Their savior was the outcast they scorned. The boy they erased had held them up. Mom rocked back and forth, whispering, "We cannot undo this now. He is gone forever." Dad stared at the photo, saying I would burn this house down to tell him I was wrong, just once. Their grief swallowed the room, a love revealed when it could not be returned, a sacrifice that broke their world apart. This was not just an end, it was a mirror to their souls, a reckoning they would carry to their graves. Liam was gone, his breath stilled on that garage floor, but his love lingered, heavy in the air his parents breathed. Etched into the house they could not bear to look at the same way. They sat with his letter for days. Mom traced his words until the paper wore thin. Dad stared at the dent in the wall, both drowning in a regret they could not outrun. The truth of his sacrifice burned. 3 years of payments from a son they disowned, a life traded for their shelter. They knew they had to change, not just for him, but for every kid like him they had failed to see. They sold what they could, took the little money left, started a fund in Liam's name, a quiet promise to help young LGBTQ folks cast out by their own families. The house stood, no longer a prize to cling to, but a symbol of a love they did not earn. They opened its doors, let strangers in need sleep under its roof, turned it into a haven Liam would have smiled at. Mom baked for them, hands still shaky, saying this is what he would have wanted. Dad fixed leaky pipes, muttering he taught me that, his voice soft for the first time in years. Word spread, people came, some with stories like Liam's, others just broken by life. The fund grew, small but steady, a lifeline for those who had nowhere else to turn. At 60, his parents stood different, faces lined with grief, but eyes softer. They spoke his name with pride now, not shame, telling anyone who listened, "Our son saved us. We did not deserve him." The garage where he died got a plaque, Liam's legacy. Ray nailed it up, saying he would have hated the fuss. but it fits. Liam's story was not about revenge. It was about a love so deep it held up those who pushed him away. A gift that outlasted his breath, turned pain into something good. His DISN taught us, love does not need to be seen to matter. It just needs to be given, even when it hurts, even when it costs everything. From a son disowned at 22, he left a mark they could not erase, a light for every outcast still fighting. This is Liam's truth. Love can heal what hate breaks, even after you are gone. So tell me, who have you loved through the hurt? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear your heart. If Liam's story hit you, please hit that like. It keeps us going. Share this with someone who needs to know they are enough. Your share might save them. Subscribe to Heart Stories, hit the bell, join our family. We tell stories that matter, stories that lift us up together.